This is Essence of Science. Today we're going to be talking about what is behind caffeine. I'm Amanda Armagast.
My name is Alyssa Haber.
And I'm Goofy Dr. Abbasi.
And he's
and
a
caffeinated Dr. Abbasi.
and a self-identified caffeine addict.
Yes, I am. I just, the admission is the first step.
Mm-hmm. How many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
Okay, never do that. But probably about a quart to 1.5 quart of coffee a day.
That's probably about what I was consuming about 4 months ago.
How many
So-
cups is that? How many cups are in a quart? Or how many ounces?
Well, a quart is 1/4 of a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
So about a liter, about 1 to 1.5 liter of coffee is a lot. Don't do that.
It's about that much. Like cup, like those.
A cup is
That's
two.
not, no,
it's
you
not
drink
that
way
much.
more coffee than that.
6 cup of coffee.
I can smell the coffee on you right now. Come on. Alyssa, do you know how much caffeine the common person drinks?
I don't know. I'm guessing at least a couple cups of coffee or caffeinated beverages a day.
Well, 80% of Americans drink coffee every day, wasn't it?
80%. I bet 80% of people drink some sort of caffeinated beverages a day. I mean, do you?
Oh, I drink 1 cup of coffee on my way to work, but I don't drink coffee during the day.
1 cup. Oh, so cute.
Thank you.
Yeah, just 1 cup.
Well, what time did you wake up this morning?
Me?
Yeah.
At around 6 o'clock.
How did you feel when you woke up?
Just I wake up in 10 minutes. I'm ready to go and start my day. So.
But my question is more like, when you woke up, did you feel like you needed a cup of coffee?
No, I know I'm going to need a cup of coffee at 45 minutes later. So I'm pre-caffeinate myself.
Yeah. I used to do a lot of caffeine myself, and I've just recently stuck to water. And I definitely noticed there's some days where I'm lagging and I look at Amanda and I go, I need some caffeine.
No,
And you still don't do it.
And I still don't do
so
it.
there is a story behind my caffeine usage. You want to hear it?
Sure.
So, I didn't drink any coffee or tea even, until I was in my early 30s. And during the residency, I noticed that I actually am drinking lots of Diet Coke, and I need that to go on. And I didn't know that Diet Coke has caffeine. Actually, not good for a surgeon or a doctor not to know that, but I didn't. And once I figured out that the Diet Coke has caffeine, I said, no, I can't do this. I have to stop. So I switched to something else that I thought doesn't have caffeine. And
What
that
was it?
something else was Diet Mountain Dew.
Oh,
Worse.
Yeah. And then once I thought, oh, who says that's caffeine? I noticed no different. But so I was even better on Diet Mountain Dew. So I got Diet Mountain Dew addict. And then once I discovered that it has actually twice amount of the caffeine as the Diet Coke, I said, you know what? Let's go to source. Then I start drinking coffee.
I think coffee is maybe a little more healthy of an
Yeah.
option than the sugary pops.
I mean,
but
No, it
There
wasn't
are
sugary, diet, all diet.
Okay, I know. Okay,
Oh,
you and I
yeah.
are going to disagree on this, but I want everyone else to agree with me on this. Diet is not better. It's actually worse for you. It has worse artificial sweeteners. And even if it gets room temp, Diet Coke that's been in the car, room temp can cause birth defects in pregnant women. So I honestly don't think
I
saying
know nothing
no
about that.
sugar is any better. But moving on, coffee actually does have some benefits.
There are lots of studies back and forth. Right? Obviously, it is the most consumed drug on the planet.
Mhm.
So what that means is that if it has really horrendous effect, you would know it by now.
Mhm.
And obviously it doesn't have the euphoria like the cocaine would give you. Many
Mhm.
effect of the caffeine and cocaine are not dissimilar. But it doesn't have lots of bad side effect of cocaine, and it has arouse our attention span and give us a boost of energy and so on and so forth. But honestly, in the weekends when I don't drink coffee, I have headache. So it's not just all positive, but as well, I probably take it as a higher dose than average person.
Well, and also when you're having your headache, that's probably partially your caffeine withdrawal.
No, it is caffeine withdrawal. That's exactly the point, that in the weekend when I'm not drinking coffee as the regular day, I do have headache. And that is it. So there is some effect of addiction. There's definitely there, but obviously, again, not to a level. You might as well say we are all water addict. Okay, so how do we feel if I don't drink water? Horrible, right? So for me, caffeine is, in a way, my addiction to caffeine. I would say, no, I just need it for my daily activities.
Yeah, that's true. And like we mentioned earlier, there are some benefits. There was I think it was a Harvard study that followed 120,000 people for almost 2 decades. And the information that I heard from that was really interesting. Do you want to?
Yeah, was this the one about diabetes?
Yeah, this is the diabetes one.
We had found some research, a link between drinking coffee and a decrease in diabetes.
Decreased risk.
Yeah, decreased risk. We had found significant amounts. If you drink coffee in 6+ cups of coffee a day, for women, they will reduce the risk of diabetes by about 35%.
And it gets crazier actually, because in men, it reduces your risk of diabetes by 54%. Drinking 6 to 9 cups of coffee
I'm not
a day.
getting diabetes.
Yeah, lucky you, you're gonna live forever.
I have no diabetes for me.
It was really interesting when I heard that, because I was trying to break down maybe what, why, what were we seeing this correlation between, the lessening of diabetes and the increase of caffeine.
Yeah.
So
I have a few theories, because of course that's just black coffee. That's not coffee with creamer and not with sugar.
Yeah.
And I know that coffee kind of reduces your appetite a little bit. So I'm wondering
I know it does.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it decreases your risk.
You know how my day look like.
Well,
I know you live on coffee.
Like Dr. Bassi had kind of said before, coffee is a stimulant just like cocaine. So we kind of see those symptoms or side effects in a much lesser tone. So you see kind of the racing hearts, you're more moving, you're getting off your feet, you're doing a lot more when you're caffeinated, which could see some.
We should talk a little about the actual effect of the caffeine, if you're going to talk about that. It's a very, first of all, every drug on the planet, it works because it practically fits to a receptor in our nervous system. That's how they work. And like every other drug that is in the plant world, which coffee and caffeine is part of, it is actually built so the insect die of eating that.
Form of protection.
The protection for the plant. And the way caffeine actually works, it actually binds to some receptor. It's very similar to adenosine. And then it interferes with the acetylcholine, which is a major neurotransmitter. And what in regular dose for the most of insect is deadly, we figured out feels good. Now, there is a nice story there.
Okay.
Have you heard of pufferfish?
Yep.
They're poisonous.
They're poisonous.
They're magic mushrooms.
Yeah, well, do you know what actually dolphins do with them? They hit them so they
blow up,
and then they get this, whatever their poison is, they get euphoria. Dolphin get euphoria and they get a good feeling from, because their volume, they're bigger and so on. So instead of killing them, it actually makes them so. Dolphin have learned to play like the volleyball or football with pufferfish and get high and play around and come hit them again. So nature has its own way to recycle and put that whatever it's there for different routes. And so is caffeine, that it was used to be like a toxin for insects. And now we notice not only we use it for a different purpose, but as well, we try everything to concentrate that. And the whole process of how we brew coffee, we make the beans and so on, is to concentrate that.
Yeah, well, there was a farmer in Ethiopia. He was Did you hear about that too? The Ethiopian farmer with the goats?
I
That they-
didn't,
they
but I
eat it?
did. I
Yeah,
did know that
he-
it originated in Ethiopia.
Yeah,
so.
there was a farmer and he saw his goats eating like the little red and green
Mhm.
berries,
Mhm.
and he called them dancing goats because then they would eat these berries and get so hyper they would start dancing.
Mhm.
And that's how he decided he wanted to try the same berries, and he realized he liked the effects.
No, there is actually the different way of creating some kind of coffee. You know, the coffee, the way we take it from the plant, is not ready for us.
Mhm.
It has to get fermented to a certain degree. And there are many, many ways to ferment it, and that different coffee come from. One of the craziest way of fermenting the coffee, do you know what it is? You
Yeah, with koalas.
that the koalas?
Koala poop?
Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be koala. It can be any kind of, any kind of animal that usually eat grass, because they have lots of those bacteria in their guts. They have different. So you actually goats, you give them to goats and you take it out of their poop. It has fermented in their digestive system. And that is, believe it or not, one of the way of making coffee, because it has to get fermented one way or another. Now,
Hey, don't act so freaked out.
That's the exact reason why I do not drink coffee anymore.
because, well, no, most of coffee are not created that way, though.
You convinced me.
Only the most expensive coffee.
Well,
Actually, it's really expensive. But poop coffee.
I'm not sure if you can afford that coffee.
It's like $100.
Shucks.
No, Alyssa, it's like $100 a cup.
Oh,
Yeah.
pocket change.
Yeah. No, I want to ask you both a question. Do you remember the first time you drank coffee?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me each of you, tell me your experience, but then I'm going to tell you my experience.
Gosh, I did not like coffee until I was about 18, 19 years. I loved the smell. I didn't like the taste until I got to college and I established that I wasn't going to get the sleep I needed. So I needed something else.
Mhm.
So that's when I started drinking coffee.
Very first time.
Yeah.
Give me your impression, your feeling, your impression, very first cup of coffee you had.
Mm,
I remember mine.
yeah, you go. I don't know if I remember mine in that detail.
I
I
can
do
really.
remember it very well. Go on,
Well, I remember mine really well because it was a pivotal moment for me, actually.
tell me.
It was a nice summer day, super hot out, and we were at the pool, and my aunt brought me a Starbucks Frappuccino.
Cappuccino, that is
She
different. That's
and
very
Go
different.
the nice warm day.
Yeah, she brought me like a caramel Frappuccino, and it had caffeine in it. That was my first time having coffee. I don't remember feeling the effects, but I remember thinking like, this is delish.
Okay, no, Frappuccino is not in a category of really coffee. Because
Excuse me, there's 2 shots of espresso in one Frappuccino.
but
That's
I'm
more
talking about,
caffeine.
I'm talking about true coffee. Like, let me tell you my experience. I was about probably 11 years old, or maybe less, 10 years old. And I was with my sister in the friend's house, and the young people, they were in their early 20s, and I was like 10, 11. And they having coffee, and they smiling, they were smiling. Then they asked me, do I want to have a coffee? And I said, yeah, coffee, and so on. And they brought me a cup of coffee. And I thought that was the most disgusting, the most horrible, bitter thing. And they have threonine. There's something that is just bitter to us. And that's probably one of the reasons that I didn't have coffee for a long time. So the question is, yeah, obviously, if you overwhelm it with caramel and this and that, that's a different experience.
I'm with
you.
you.
Get the coffee, but it's not the same experience to have this bitter taste of the coffee that you get. How comes that something that is bitter actually doesn't taste good? How do we acquire the taste for it? There's a path there.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I think it's because we like the effects of it. So we convince ourselves we like the flavor.
It's conditioning.
But
it's conditioning.
It's conditioning, but people just overload it, like you said, with these fancy creamers and sugars. So you're not necessarily drinking your coffee.
Yeah.
You're drinking milk.
Yeah, well, but it is very well known that children, their category of chemical substance, threonine is one of them. And we are, when we are born, we are just trained to be very selective, to dismiss everything that has anything of that, because vast majority of the things in the nature that contain that are not good for us. They're poisonous to us. So children naturally don't like them. But so once we get older, it seems that our system acquires a taste for this kind of bitter, like a bitter chocolate, like coffee and so on. It seems that, and one of the major reasons for that is our livers are not ready to process all of those things. See, nature is beautiful, so fine-tuned that when we are children, just we find that disgusting, stay away from that. But once we get older, our liver is more mature, can process more of the material and enable us to process those substances. And then all of a sudden, we like it.
You just described exactly how I established coffee. Yeah, I would agree. When I had it, it was disgusting and I wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got to the point where I was kind of told, like, hey, you're tired, you got to keep going. Here's some coffee. And you tell yourself, like, oh, this is going to work. It doesn't matter how bad it tastes. You load it up with the sugar. And yeah, now I could drink it black if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you still don't.
Yeah, I typically don't. Yeah, but I could, but it has gotten better.
No, I still don't like necessarily the taste of coffee. I drink it black. Maybe I put some sweetener in it sometimes. Like I have a flask. I have like 3 full regular cups, not the coffee cups, the regular. I put 3 of that, and I put 1 of those sweetener there. So I put it a little sweet. I cannot tell I like the taste of coffee.
I actually do kind of like the taste of coffee. I feel like it's a vibe. Like drinking my coffee in the morning is it's actually a vibe to me.
I went to bed yesterday at 1:30 and I woke up at around 6:20. So for me, it's a survival thing.
Yeah, but it's actually, this is a point I was about to get to. So Alyssa, what's the half-life of a cup of coffee?
It's pretty fast. What did we say, about
6
6 hours?
And when was your last cup of coffee?
I just was on the way here.
No, yesterday.
Yesterday? Probably around on the way driving from Crookston to Alexandria. So around probably 7:38.
So around 8 p.m. you had your last cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So if the half-life of 1 cup of coffee is 6 hours, well, I guess like you'd have to include all the coffee you had throughout the day too. But let's say at 7 or 8, that was your first and last cup of coffee. I know it wasn't, but let's say it was. When would that wear off then?
No, do you know the idea of half-life is that half of the substance is
Yeah,
gone,
I know.
but that doesn't mean anything about where the effect starts or ends, because our systems are different and not everybody react the same. And if you have it for a long time, the same dose that would be very efficient for somebody, it's always for all poisons and toxins and chemicals. It's about the dose and how your body is ready to deal with it. So that can be very different for somebody who has had lots of coffee in his life versus somebody who has the first cup of coffee. And on top of that, as well, your weight, there's so many factors go into say, how long that will last in you, that really you cannot give a right answer about that. How long should that cup of coffee last?
It's really interesting listening to addicts like justify their needs. But the point I'm trying to make is when you woke up, you definitely still had some milligrams of caffeine in your system.
Probably.
So you probably woke up needing coffee.
Probably, I'm sweating right now, coffee out of me. So you don't have to convince me that that I'm made of coffee. Probably, like my cells, they're fighting right now. My coffee, no, my coffee. They're just fighting. My brain cells.
Do you know how many milligrams of caffeine are in an average cup of coffee?
It's I think it's about somewhere between 200 and 600 milligrams, depending on lots of different factors.
It said the average cup of coffee was around 100 milligrams.
Not mine.
But not yours.
Not
do you know
mine.
what they kind of say your max should be?
Oh, 800, something like that.
maybe your max is 800.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we try to keep it under 800. What I saw was that they tried to keep it anywhere below 400 if possible,
Mhm.
So
and
it's too
200
high.
if you're pregnant. So yeah,
I'm not pregnant.
luckily
So I can have,
you are okay on that. But if we tried to cut you down to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day,
Mhm.
you think you'd notice?
I think we would.
I think I would have headache.
I think everyone would.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, at the end of the day, I think it's about what your body is ready to take and what's used to.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, no, the coffee is not the only thing I get my caffeine from.
What else do you get your caffeine from?
Diet Mountain Dew, Diet Coke,
Mm-hmm.
Monster Energy.
Monster. I just had a Monster. Additional to all my,
Oh my gosh. I just learned the craziest thing about 6 Hour Energy. This blew my mind. You know how many milligrams of caffeine are in a Diet Coke?
it's about what, 50?
Yeah, about 50. Imagine the size of a Diet Coke versus a 6 Hour Energy. A 6 Hour Energy has 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Yum, yum.
4 Diet Cokes in like 2 ounces. That's insane.
Yeah.
So that means
That's
two
like-
of those would be your max for a
That is-
day.
Well, your max for a day.
The
No,
suggested max.
well, and that's why they are called 6 Hour Energy.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
the problem with all those energy drinks is that they give you a boost, but then you go crash later.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, you have just so much reserves in your body, and you have to recover from that. And so you have to be very careful. And the worst combination is energy drink and alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
that's
believe
such
that.
a big one at the club. Like
I'm
vodka,
guilty.
Red Bull. Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. Well, every time I drink Red Bull now, if I feel like it has vodka in it because I've only had Red Bull with vodka.
So what is the problem there?
You have an upper and a downer kind of doing the same things at the same time.
And you get the worst effect of them both.
Exactly.
So
What do you mean?
well, alcohol sedates you, but it impairs your judgment. So you're more likely to fall asleep than drive. Whereas you combine them, you still have lots of energy. You want to drive, but you still have impaired judgment.
So you're
That is-
mentally almost like you're sleeping mentally, but physically you're
You said it.
jumping.
Like,
You
yeah, you're
said it.
you're very wasted, but you're still going.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you think you're
Ooh.
still going and you're okay. And
But you're not
balancing,
okay, right?
But you're not okay.
So don't do that. That is a worst combination. Energy drinks, caffeine, and alcohol, you combine the worst of both worlds, and that makes you really prone to accident.
And I can say one of my favorite drinks was an energy drink mixed with alcohol when I was in college, and I was fine. And now
Same.
at 20, I think I was 24 the last time I had one drink of that. I had heart palpitations. I was sweating. My body cannot take it anymore. I think I've just established that.
I just
I
know you
tipped
well
over.
enough. I know you well enough to know. Oh my God, your reaction.
What's happening?
Yeah. Am I okay?
Yeah.
What
And-
if you have ADHD and you're drinking coffee?
But they make a fantastic, like pickup kind of drink, because you have no social judgment, you have no inhibition, and you have lots of energy, and you jump in and embarrass yourself right
you
away,
would.
right?
We don't
Yeah.
recommend.
So what about if you have ADHD and you're drinking coffee? I know some people say that coffee makes them sleepy.
Based on what I know, what you asked is based off of my personal experiences and kind of what I know on how ADHD works. The treatment for ADHD is typically a stimulant in a pill form, not in caffeine.
And interestingly,
But
for
yeah.
them, it doesn't work. That stimulant in the ADHD,
Mhm.
it has
The reverse effect.
reverse
yeah.
effect.
So in my head, it would make sense that if you were to put something, such as caffeine, which is like a stimulant, and you give it to someone that has ADHD, I would like to think that it would more mellow them down than amp them up. That's just based off of my
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
connecting the
well.
dots. But I also know, like from my personal experience, some of my best naps have come after drinking coffee.
That there is another story to that.
Sure, I'd love to hear
The
it.
story to that your best naps are after a coffee or Diet Coke is that imagine, you're extremely tired.
Mhm.
You get a Diet Coke or coffee and you get a power nap, like a 20. That is exactly amount of the time until that is in your system. So meaning that by the time you wake up, you get not only the effect of the power nap, but as well the full effect of the coffee or Diet Coke. So when you wake up, you're ready to go.
I've actually heard that's a study technique for med students.
Yeah, it's actually, no, it's even more important because we know you practically encode the short-term memory to long-term memory when you're sleeping
Mhm.
in that stage. But that's a different podcast.
Mhm.
We should talk about it in different podcasts. So med student, they have to memorize a lot of things. You learn things. You take a Diet Coke, you go take a power nap, you encode everything. When you wake up, your short-term memory is ready to absorb new things. So that technique is very effective.
Well, I've actually heard that caffeine can help with your memory. Have you heard that?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
You go.
I think Amanda should take this one.
No, you go.
So, caffeine by nature, it enables our nerves, our neurons, being more efficient in passing signals. So, it makes us more alert for that reason. So, how can you absorb memories better? When you are more alert or when you're less alert?
More alert and focused.
And here you are. That's a simple fact of it. By reducing some kind of, by adding, connecting to a receptor and making sure that acetylcholine stays more available. And so the nerve is ready to shoot a signal, fire, have action potential. And so that's what the nature of alertness from most of stimulant is. Different path that gives you the same effect, but coffee seems to be, or caffeine seems to be a very potent, but least having least side effects.
I always used to hear that coffee stunts your growth. Is that true?
I don't know even what that means. What does that mean? Stunts your
Have you
growth.
heard that before?
Stunts your growth, like makes you grow
Short.
slower.
Or you stop growing. I know this is a
No, I don't know.
folklore.
I don't know
because
anything about
They
that.
used to say that used to be a thing, when you get older, you
Mhm.
start to shrink or decompress, you get shorter. And so the saying was that that's why they don't let have kids have coffee because it stunts your growth.
No.
I guess that's what I was told is why I couldn't have coffee at a
Okay.
younger age.
Yeah, I guess it
Okay.
makes sense.
I know a story of a good friend, and that's sort of, maybe it's in that category. She has two brothers and she loves her brothers, but she had this really beautiful, delicious dessert and told her brothers, oh, that's gross. Don't eat that. That's not good for you. So that the brothers don't eat the dessert in the fridge. So because she loved that dessert. So maybe with the coffee, it's something similar.
They just wanted it for themselves.
That sounds like a private story that your friend told you. And she probably was embarrassed that she was trying to hoard her tiramisu and didn't want her brothers to eat it because they don't appreciate it.
I'm starting to pick up on the message that's getting laid down.
That is something. Coffee was expensive. You don't want to feed it to kids. So
Coffee was expensive.
Actually, did you know how important coffee was? Like back in Europe? Like
How important?
the point that
there were wars for it.
if you would take people's coffee, steal it, import it illegally, not pay taxes, do you know what they did to you?
They probably put you in the jail.
Yeah, no, they cut your head off.
Oh, wow.
That was the Muslims after they defeated the Arabian Peninsula, right?
Yeah, back in
They were
before they
exporting
break into
coffee.
Turkey,
Yeah.
in Turkey.
Now, obviously,
Yeah.
the origin of coffee is from Ethiopia, as you said,
Mhm,
from Africa.
Africa.
And obviously, the Arabs got to Africa before the
Europe.
other European colonial power.
Mm.
So, and the Arab power, they were always between Africa and Europe. So that makes sense that it has to come through them, and nobody want to share their economic power. And it is like many other things, like spices that came from India, or coffee, or tobacco that came from the people who have it always want to keep a monopoly. So there's another story that Marco Polo told that those little, what do you call them? They make the silk. What's called
those worms.
the worms that make silk. If they would catch you with having any of them, they would kill you as well. So I'm not surprised that they would kill you for coffee. Not the threshold to kill people was much lower. Like you roll your eyes. I'm going to kill you. Like the threshold to kill people for a long time, the bar was very low.
You have to put it into perspective too. You know, coffee was their form of, money, living,
like gold.
It was their gold. If someone came in and stole your life savings or your, I get it. I'm not one to, kill. So let's not go there, everybody. But I understand the rage or the extent of the crime. So
for sure.
So, what's the future of coffee? What do you think?
I think coffee is not going away.
No,
I wouldn't be surprised if coffee ends up going down as a coffee side of things and up as more of a, like Amanda kind of said, the sugary, the fancy fruity drinks.
And
that's where the money's coming.
And if you go, for example, if you go to Starbucks, you just look at their menu, you're absolutely right on.
I wonder how many people order a black coffee when they
I do. And they look at me funny.
When you're dragged to Starbucks.
When I'm dragged to Starbucks.
Yeah. But like in general, I would never go to Starbucks, Caribou, any of those name brand places and pay for a black coffee.
No.
But I can't make all those fancy fun coffee
Why
drinks.
not? Why not?
They require a lot more fancy equipment. They require, it just takes more time. It takes more effort. It takes more money. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd probably save money, but it's easier for me to go through a drive-through and justify buying a coffee when it's something fun, cool, something I can't make.
Yeah, it's all about your mindset though, because I actually have an espresso machine and I love her so much. I make my own.
I love her.
Yeah,
How do you know it's not a him?
Because it's mine.
Oh, okay.
I make my own flavored syrup.
Espresso coffee machine, male versus female. How do you?
If it's in my house, my all pink house, it's a girl. And I make all these different lattes. So when I go out to I actually prefer not going to Starbucks. I like smaller local shops. I like to think of what syrups they have and then I go home and recreate them. But it's interesting you ask what's the future of coffee, because coffee is such a social thing and it kind of always has been. Have you ever heard of a penny university?
What?
A penny university?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so back in the day, there were coffee shops where you could go get a cup of coffee for only a penny. And they were called penny universities because unlike bars where you go and you drink alcohol, people go to these coffee shops to have smart conversations.
Actually, in France, in Paris, used to do. Most of Sartre and Russell and all these big minds. That is where they exchanged it. Yeah, that I know the concept, but I didn't know they called them penny universities.
Yeah,
so.
They go and they learn there. But I think the future of coffee is going the direction Alyssa said, where it's going to be more luxurious and more of an event, but maybe even the opposite way where it becomes less an event and more of a tool. Because I can picture us having caffeine drips or caffeine IVs and stuff like that.
We do have it already. We do have it
Yeah.
already for certain kind of migraine and headache. We do it already.
I can picture people doing it similar to insulin or something where they just take their own caffeine shot before work.
Oh, well, snorting it.
Well, I wouldn't snort it.
Readily available at appropriate prices, being sold at Walmarts, pretty soon, someday, someday you could walk up and get, I don't know, caffeine gum drops.
So
Yeah.
I see it going both ways, that
Yeah.
if artisan, fancy, sweet, and so on, and social thing and so on, but as well, truly a utilitarian, like I have to stay awake, I have to drive, and I'm tired, I have to drive, and those energy drinks, that's just the start of it. I wouldn't be surprised if there are many, many other formulations in the future that you can dose it. I doubt they're going to make it of things. I would be surprised, because then you're endeavoring in the area that what is the needle,
Yeah.
what is the
Yeah.
thing that
Well, and the 6-hour energies is basically kind of what we had talked about, with the alcohol, concentrating it down so that
Mhm.
you could get that in a smaller amount. That's virtually kind of that they've done that already.
And they've made it even more flavorless because they have like green tea extract where you can buy caffeinated lemonade, caffeinated sparkling water, and it doesn't taste like coffee or like 5-hour energy.
no. Okay, if anybody is out there, I'm giving you this for free. The future is making a formulation of the caffeine that can be absorbed over our mucosa
It's like
That-
sublingual type.
and vaping.
I
No,
do
that's a future.
honestly, okay. I can honestly say sometimes I wish I don't vape. I just want to put that out there. I never have. But I do wish I could like vape caffeine because sometimes I want like a little bit of energy, but I don't want to drink anything.
Mm. Yeah, well,
That's fair. I get that feeling.
I think the caffeine is just that opening the door for, as well, like that, talking about the future, for a new category of substances that are in the same category. They are not as heavy as some other drugs, but then as well to help us just go over our days in a more efficient way. And not that I'm advocating the designer drugs or something, but I think that is going to be part of our future. We understand human body, almost everything we do, like we close ourselves. This is not nature. We are sitting on a desk, we are talking in internet. None of the things we do is really nature anymore. So, and I think in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we are going to understand our nature of our alertness, awakeness, and so on. And we are going to come with a lots of new category of caffeine-like substances that give us one effect more than the other, and so on. And
different strands type.
different variation.
Variation.
Yeah. So, and I think, I'm not judging it, but that's our nature. Try things, new things.
And the way I kind of see it is like, we see what age range are we seeing the people that drink the black coffees? When I worked in the nursing home, that's all they did.
Mhm.
And, we kind of talked about how that changes as you get younger.
Mhm.
So I start to think of, we've seen that change drastically just in the last 30, 40 years, with coffee.
Even less.
Yeah. And so when Dr. Abbasi starts talking about like, it may not be advocating for it, but this is how I see it.
It will.
I would be surprised if we didn't see something on that level times 10.
Yeah, I agree. Or like some type of drug that right now is a prescription drug, maybe like like a life-saving medication. I'm going to use insulin for an example. There's celebrities right now using insulin for weight loss.
Ozempic is what they're
Ozempic, yeah. And so
that's not insulin, but it's a diabetic medication, Ozempic.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it?
It's supposed to aid more in weight loss than it is.
What is it? What is it?
I don't even know which one. I just hear about
Ozempic
it.
is what it's called. And there's
GPLT.
Well, I know
one or
there's
two.
people right now that actually like can't get their own prescription that need it
Mm.
because there's a lot of celebrities using it. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the future there's another similar medication that keeps us awake, that maybe someone will be like, oh, I'm prescribed this and I realize I'm awake. They share it with their friend.
Well, we kind of already have those.
Yeah, we do.
That's nothing new.
Mhm.
What's new is finding a way to do it legally, or quote healthy, or,
safely.
caffeine they see as a safe. When you hear words like stimulants, like Adderall, there's a little bit more of a stigma where people might pick up onto it.
Yeah, they will.
So,
but there's safe ways to get more out of your caffeine too. Like I read that.
you see, I'm fixing the thing. I cannot sit still.
Yeah, because you have too much caffeine.
Too
in
much
your
caffeine?
system.
So I think this answers our question though, that if you have ADHD, caffeine still affects you.
You're still going to be
Okay.
affected.
So we have to come back and one day talk about ADHD,
Okay.
because we have this tendency to call very inventive, very active minds, put a name on it, give it a medication and slow it down because the rest of the people cannot keep up with those
Mhm.
kids. But that is a different podcast. We should come back to that.
Mhm.
We
So-
will. Sounds like a great topic.
So
Yeah.
I think the word without what other people would call ADHD would be a very boring word.
They'd be a bunch of
Yeah.
atoms.
Yeah, a bunch
Yeah.
of boring people sitting around and looking at the walls and so on. We make it more spicy, the whole word.
Goofy.
Yeah.
Silly goofy.
You're sitting here while during the podcast, it's finding a way for the table, not slapping around.
You're not
Yeah.
even on the podcast when
Yeah.
you get over there.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys want to safely get more of your caffeine, actually grapefruit is supposed to be a good tool. It has something in it that slows down the removal of the caffeine from your body.
Interesting.
Yep, just so you know.
Grapefruit.
I don't know if I'd like the taste of that with coffee.
Yeah, maybe
but
not at the same time.
but
Yeah.
grapefruit teas or grapefruit, they have infused sparkling
True.
waters.
Mhm.
I could do that.
Or coffee ice cream.
I
They
love
have that.
coffee ice cream.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Is there
same.
caffeine in the coffee ice cream though?
Well, it's made out of coffee.
Yeah, but there's decaffeinated. It's probably
but even
coffee
decaf,
flavor.
even decaf has
Probably coffee flavor though.
yeah,
It's not.
and extract.
Yeah.
Extract.
I think the most ridiculous thing is that decaffeinated coffee.
I agree.
It still
I
has
agree.
caffeine in it. And it's like
Very little. though.
yeah, very little, but enough where if you're drinking, like if you're pounding decaf coffee, you're still
Why
gonna-
would I pound decaf coffee?
I don't
Okay.
get why it's there
You
either.
guys,
Just-
my dad's wife is addicted to caffeine just as bad as him. And when she was pregnant,
Nobody's as
no,
bad
you
as
don't know. You don't know. When she
I know.
When she was pregnant, she relied on decaf coffee because she really needed that flavor of the coffee
Mhm.
without the caffeine.
It's like his Diet Coke.
Yeah.
So we are getting toward the end of our podcast. Do we have any closing remarks?
Yeah, I want to share something I learned a long time ago when I took a tour of the Coke factory in Georgia. Because we all know Coke has caffeine in it.
Oh, Coke has much more, used to have much more in it than just
Yeah.
caffeine.
Well, I learned in Georgia at the Coke factory that actually there's a chemical that removes the caffeine out of coffee, and that's how they get decaf coffee. They save that caffeine and they put it in Coke.
Double time.
There you
Yeah.
go.
See,
Hey, that's
recycling,
efficient. Yeah, exactly. There you
recycling.
go.
Yeah,
Recycling.
Coca-Cola
Brilliant.
owns the biggest decaffeination plant in the US, and so that's how they get their caffeine.
Did you know that there's only one state in the United States that's built to grow coffee?
What? We grow coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me.
Which state do you
Which
think it
state?
is?
Well, it has to be something very, climate has to be warm and with lots of water. So Georgia, I would say
Think
Florida.
a little outside the box.
Oh, French Guyana or something somewhere in Pacific.
Hawaii.
Hawaii. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be warm
Mhm.
and moist and
It's
so on.
It's the only state that's in what they call the bean belt. Which
Okay.
means they called it the bean belt, the
Oh,
coffee bean
cute.
No,
belt.
I didn't know that. But we
yeah.
grow coffee.
Ecuador is a big coffee producer too.
And that's where we are going next week. So
What?
before
You're going global?
We're going global.
we are going global. So stay tuned.
And thank you guys for joining. I'm Amanda.
I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Dr. Aussie Voices.